Hello, and thank you for joining us for our Irish Angle show. Myself, Emma Nagle, and Johnny Ward are going to have a look back at all the fun from Cheltenham last week, and a fabulous week it was. Emma, Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vinny.
Thanks, Vincent. Good to be back.
Yeah, great stuff. Now, first of all, we got one thing to get out of the way first, is we ran a competition for Cheltenham. Fabulous prize, £6,000 was the prize, and you could either choose to go to Cheltenham 2024 or a Caribbean cruise. So we'd 1,400 odd entries, and out of them, we had 560 want to go to Cheltenham and 831 want to go on the Caribbean cruise. So it turns out, anyway, after it all, you had to predict the result of the Prestbury Cup. So it turned out that 144 people correctly predicted that Ireland would have 18 winners and Great Britain would have 10. And then out of them, we had a tie-break question, which was to pick the winner of the Gold Cup, and that was Galopin Des Champs. And we still have 76 people have correctly predicted both. So as you see on screen here, we have the 76 people's names. Now, what they are is their nicknames that they put in when they entered the competition. We had 3 people who didn't put in a nickname, so we put in their first name instead. All 76 are there. And we've Michael in the background is going to click the button to see who the winner is.
Agonising defeat for a couple of people there.
There we go. Yeah, and Barney is our winner, and I will email Barney later on today to sort out the prize and all the rest of it. A couple of things will have to be confirmed: that Barney is over 18 and is a resident in Ireland, in either Ireland or the UK, but we presume that'll be the case. He's also got 30 days to get in touch with us to be sure. Otherwise, we'll redraw from those 76 names, or the 75 that are left. So there you go. Well done, Barney. Hope you have a great time next year on your trip, whichever one it is. I'm not quite sure which one you picked, but I'll be able to check back when we look at the data after the show. All right, guys, now let's get stuck into it. Cheltenham, fabulous week. All sorts of great things happened. What was your highlight, Emma?
Honeysuckle, definitely for me. It was just such. I think no matter who you backed in the race, everyone was just delighted to see her coming back in, and the scenes in the parade ring afterwards were probably unmatched. But like the whole week, like for me, I had a terrible week of betting, but still, it was probably one of the best Cheltenham festivals I can remember. There was just so many highlights. But Honeysuckle for me, I just seeing her back in the winners' enclosure for the last time, and seeing how the crowd reacted to her, and obviously with everything, the Bromheads really deserved the victory. So yeah, it was kind of an emotional one. I think nearly everyone probably shed a tear at that one. So yeah, it was just brilliant.
Yeah, Johnny, was that one of your highlights as well?
Oh, without a doubt, Vinny. I think, like, to be honest, day one has to be up there with my best Cheltenham day ever in terms of just enjoyment, and possibly was my best day ever, because I think I saw the greatest jumping performance in my lifetime anyway, that I've seen, and that was followed in by one of the most emotional victories I think you'll have in a race course. And Honeysuckle, as she went maybe half a length, 2 parts of a length down after the last from a very, very gallant runner up, I just started to think of Dawn Run, that the mare is beginning to get up, and I do think she actually responded to the noise of the crowds. Unfortunately, I wasn't at Cheltenham, but I think that's you could hear the noise, and you could, this was a very, very special renewal of the mare's race, and just the emotional aspect for the De Bromhead family. And I do believe these things help in your road to get on with life, and try and remember Jack De Bromhead. I think Honeysuckle and Envoi Alain, the week that the De Bromhead family had, makes them believe, I think, that Jack is still looking down on them. And this was an amazing day of Cheltenham.
Yeah, I agree. And look, she's a 4-time festival winner. She's won 2 champion hurdles. She really was an absolute star of the game, no doubt about it. And they made the right decision not to go for the champion hurdle. There's no doubt about that, Emma, is there?
No, and we've been talking about it so much, kind of, and the build up to it. But like, in fairness to the Connections, they made the perfect decision in the end. There was I think no one can doubt them now. They went and they got her a big victory. And in fairness to the mare, like, there was all this talk about how much she was regressing and this and that, but when it came down to it, she was just so brave. Even if she has gone back a bit ability wise, like, you'd understand that she's getting older, but I think her bravery kind of establishes her as one of the greatest, probably she's the greatest mare I've ever seen. I don't remember Dawn Run, but yeah, she's just a real people's horse. And yeah, it was just brilliant to see it. probably a Cheltenham moment, probably the best Cheltenham moment in my memory anyway.
Yeah, good stuff. I'd have to say it's up there with the top of mine as well. It was fabulous. Just looking at the race she might have run in, the Champion Hurdle. What about that, Johnny? Some horse, Constitution Hill.
I've never seen anything like this, Vinny, to be honest. I mean, I had a kind of a, let's just say I wasn't entirely sober at a Cheltenham preview night and met a couple of lads from the north of England, and we had a distance bet on how far Constitution Hill would win. And I think I went for something like 4 lengths, thinking that Stateman's a very, very good horse. He can't absolutely destroy Stateman. You know, he's effectively unbeaten for Willie Mullins. You know, he's been beaten all before him. He's been slamming Honeysuckle in Irish races this year, and he can't destroy him, surely not. And like, could he have won by 15 lengths, maybe 20 lengths? He wasn't. To me, he wasn't nearly extended. Sometimes horses are not given the whip, and they look kind of like they have more in hand than they have. But for me, he had so much in hand. I've never seen anything like it. And the big debate now is it's a lovely debate to have. But if you own Constitution Hill, which sadly doesn't entail coming to Punchestown, which I think would have been amazing, what do you do with him next season? Because I don't know the answer. I was working with a bookmaker this week, and I was working with Tim Carroll from Australia, and he was like, I'd love to see him run in the Melbourne Cup. He'd win the Melbourne Cup. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think whatever he does, it's going to entail, I suppose, responsibilities for connections of other horses to go elsewhere.
Oh, it's a big thing. This is one of the big talking points going forward, I think, is what do they do with Constitution Hill? It seems to me the obvious thing is you go back and you win the Champion Hurdle next year and the year after and the year after, and for as long as the horse can stay sound. But connections seem to be thinking a little bit differently. They're talking about maybe going novice chasing next season. It's going to have huge implications for every other horse in training, I would have thought, at the top level. What do you think, Emma? If you had a good novice hurdler this year, you're thinking of going novice chasing, and you hear Constitution Hill is going to be going that route, would you stick to hurdles?
You're going to be going the opposite direction to him wherever he goes. You're not going to want to meet him. Like, to be honest, like coming into the meeting, I was kind of in the same board as Johnny. I didn't think like he was going to hammer Stateman the way he did, but like Stateman's a very good horse. Like, you have to have a lot of respect for him, and just the way he beat him. Like, I think it kind of solidified the hype around him, I suppose. I wasn't fully on board the whole one of the greatest hurdlers of all time train before the race, but I've actually never seen anything like it. The performance he put up was just incredible. Like, and it's hard to take anything away from it all. He's just a freak of nature is the only way to describe him, I suppose. Like, what would you do with him? I suppose, like, when you have a horse like him, they're kind of a one in a generation horse. Like, why not just roll the dice and go chasing? I suppose like that's probably what he was bought for in the first place. There was actually a very good video of him going around on Twitter of Barry Geraghty's 9-year-old daughter riding him as a 3-year-old horse, and just his temperament. Like, it's probably what makes him. Obviously, he has all this talent, but his temperament probably makes him even more kind of endearing as an individual. Like, he's just, even after he won the Champion Hurdle, when he's walking back in with thousands of people surrounding him and screaming, and he's just walking back in like a child's pony, like he's something else. And you'd have a lot of respect if Michael Buckley did send him chasing. Like, it's a brave thing to do, because going from a Champion Hurdle to a Gold Cup would be a massive leap. But I suppose, why not? Like, when you have the horse, try and make history. I suppose that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it. And look, it would be fabulous to see. The other question, I suppose, is let's say that he does go novice chasing. Will he run in an Arkle next year? Will he run in a Turner's? Where will he go? Or will he go directly to a Gold Cup or something? Or what? Or a Champion Chase? Is he too good to stay in the novice division all the way through? What do you think, Johnny? Will they go the conventional route if they do go novice chasing?
I am not sure they will. I think they might start off in novice chases, but let's be honest here. Like, you're obviously under more pressure in a Grade 1 senior champion chase, but like, this is Constitution Hill, so you're dealing with a complete freak. So he looks to me like a horse that'll jump a fence very well. Ironically enough, his only defeat came in a point-to-point where he apparently sort of made an absolute mess of the last and still should have won. But Warren Ewing would say he jumps really well. I think nearly for me, Vinny, it's not so much whether he jumps hurdles or fences, but what trip he wants. Because if they want to make him into a Gold Cup horse, I'd have worries about that, because he's so quick. As much as he's a freak, would he have the stamina to jump 22 fences over 3.25 miles and then have that speed at the end of his race? So I would be I'm if I owned him, I'm really not sure what I do, because if he stays hurdling, it'll be very boring for everyone else. He'll be like, it's hard to top what he did on Tuesday over hurdles. If he goes over fences, though, I'd prefer to keep him at 2 miles, because I think he's out. He's basically an out and out 2 miler. 2.5 would be fine. If you go down the Gold Cup trip, that could entail some concerns for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. So let's take it he does go novice chasing next year, and he was to run, maybe not in the Arkle, but to go for the champion chase. That could turn into some race, couldn't it? Because we're looking at El Fabiolo and Energamine, two more really impressive winners from last week. What did you make of those two, Emma?
Yeah, I thought El Fabiolo was brilliant. In particular, there was I think there was people kind of making excuses for John Bon afterwards that he didn't jump as electric, but I just think they were going too fast for John Bon to jump as electric as he had been before, to be honest. And I thought Paul Townend deserves a lot of credit for this ride. I thought he rode brilliantly all week long, but this one in particular, I backed El Fabiolo, but I was a small bit worried about his jumping. But if you watch Paul the whole way around, you can kind of see he's taking his time. He's not rushing him into any fence. He's giving him time to jump. And in fairness, like, the horse was nearly foot perfect, and the engine he showed was unreal. To be honest, I thought maybe he might have been a horse who could step up and trip, maybe to Ryanair or something like that. But we see keep mills, which, I suppose when you win an Arkle, why not? And he's going to be meeting an Energamine who, I suppose, destroyed the champion chase, which maybe fell apart a bit. But you'd have to put the question, like, does Energamine make these races fall apart with his style of running? The ground came up perfect for him, and no one could go with him on the day. So yeah, it's a good time to be Willie Mullins, in fairness. But I'd say he will be hoping Constitution Hill might go up and trip if way he goes.
Yeah. It's not just a good time to be Willie Mullins, it's a good time to be a National Hunt Racing fan, because we've got some fabulous horses around. Johnny, what did you make of those two chasers, Energamine and El Fabiolo?
Well, Energamine, I don't really know what to say, because I just thought the race fell apart to the extent that he kind of showed his form. I thought Paul Townend was going to ride him a lot more prominently than he did at Cheltenham the last day, because I just think he didn't get into a rhythm. And watching it back, it was actually like, apart from the mistake at the last, he actually still would have been thereabouts. He was still running a very good race. But I did back in Energamine, because I just thought on the day he doesn't have much to beat. Edward Stone ran no sort of a race, and I thought he was the real Energamine. The novice was very, very good. It'll be very interesting to see where he goes. I thought it was a good renewal of the Arkle, and could he step up and trip? Possibly, but I do think he's probably an out and out 2 miler. And Paul Townend won 5 Grade 1 races this week. I thought the confidence that he showed, and the belief that he showed in the horses that he was riding, and the confidence he showed in himself as well, was one of the highlights of the week.
I agree. I thought one of the best rides of the week was the other one, which was probably the big performance. The other big performance of the week was Gallopin Des Champs in the Gold Cup. I thought Paul Townend gave that a superb ride. Everything right, textbook stuff. Did everything at the right time. Didn't get involved in the messing up front or anything else. Sat out the back, made the move at the right time, put the race to bed at the right time. I thought he did everything right, and it was fantastic performance. And that's a proper Gold Cup winner. I think it was a proper Gold Cup all round. What did you make of that, Emma?
Yeah, I mean, just the ride he gave him was so cool. And like, something about Paul Townend, like, he had his doubters, particularly at the Dublin Racing Festival. There was a lot of talk about maybe rides that he should have won on, and this and that. But like, the pressure on him coming into this Cheltenham Festival was unreal. And in fairness, like, some of the rides he gave were just so cool. And on Gallopin Des Champs, I think AP McCoy said it was one of the best rides he's ever seen at the Cheltenham Festival, which is some statement. But like, in fairness, he did absolutely nothing wrong. He rode him like he was the best horse in the race. So cool on him in a Gold Cup. He wasn't always in the perfect position, but he had so much confidence in himself and in the horse, and got it paid off. Like, you would imagine watching that, like, Nicky Henderson wouldn't be too like, overly confident, I suppose, about Constitution Hill, because I think Gallopin Des Champs, like, as a Gold Cup horse, he just looks so good. Probably the best Gold Cup horse we've seen in a long time. Look, he's only a 7-year-old. He'd have to have luck on his side, I suppose, to keep coming back and back again to a Gold Cup. It's such a tough division, but if he can stay sound and keep coming back, like, he's going to take some amount of beating, because I think he won that race as he liked, with a clearer round, an easier kind of his jumping maybe wasn't spectacular at the starting off, and he was a bit far behind. Like if he had a better run of it, he probably would have won even easier. And I think Paul Townend even took a while to pull him up again. So like, yeah, he just looks like another superstar, and I think that's probably one of the highlights of the week as well. There were so many superstars kind of proved themselves. There wasn't too many disappointments throughout the week, and yeah, this fella's right up. I think right up the top. One of the highlights of the week. He was spectacular.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing from that, the Brave Man's Game ran a cracker, I have to say. I didn't think that horse was that good, but he's very, very good. Could win another King George and possibly, like, I don't think he didn't stay. I just think he didn't stay quite as well as the winner and hadn't got the quality of the winner in the finish. But another one to take out of that race for me was Hewick. What did you make of that, Johnny? That was some performance, wasn't it? In ground he wouldn't have liked.
Yeah, it was. I actually thought that was like one of the memories of the week. Really, how well Hewick was running for much of the race, and there was that horrible moment then when he fell. You're like, Jesus, Hewick better get up, because it just would have been a real rags to riches to rags story if something befell him. And I think his story is great for racing. It was a phenomenal performance, and I think Shark Cannon can justifiably now sort of target these good races. The race itself, I suppose, my issue with the race would be that Plutard didn't finish. I laid Galpin de Champs in the day thinking that he's two proper rivals here in Brave Man's Game and Plutard. Plutard was badly hampered by Ahoy Senior, didn't finish. Melenda ran no sort of race. And I thought if you look at Brave Man's Game after last, he was absolutely legless. But that all kind of does go to show what a performance was from the winner. And when you're jumping 22 fences with all those horses in front of you, the dangers of going down the route that Paul Townend did and holding a horse up, they're great. They really are great. And that was the reason I took him on. I think there's so much can go wrong in the Gold Cup. It's an unbelievable jumping test. And things did go wrong for him, but he was still much the best horse in the day. And it was a phenomenal race. And I think the ride he gave the horse has to go down as one of the coolest rides you'll see at Cheltenham, because to ride a hot favourite in the Gold Cup like that takes some balls.
Yeah, I'd agree. Look, there were lots of other fantastic performances through the week, but a couple to pick out. Marine Nationale beating Facile Vega, Barry Connell's first winner, Michael O'Sullivan's first winner on the track as well at Cheltenham. Emma, that was some performance. You'd fancied that horse as well, hadn't you, in the build up to it?
Yeah, he was actually, I think I was fancying him when we did the anti-post show, but when the rain came, I started fancying Facile Vega, so I changed my mind probably to the wrong effect. But like, in fairness, Michael O'Sullivan, like talking about cool rides, was it his first Cheltenham Festival ride? Definitely as professional. I'm not sure if he rode as an amateur, maybe in the Hunter's Chase, but first ride as professional, supreme novice hurdle, riding a fancied horse, and he just was so cool. Probably won't like Paul Townend on Galopin Des Champs, but apart from that, it's probably the coolest ride of the week. He just followed Paul the whole way. He had the tag on his back, and like, maybe people were more saying that maybe Paul went a bit early, but in fairness, I think the result wouldn't have been affected anyway. Marine Nationale won it so easily. And Barry Connell was right. Like, the confidence he had coming into it was kind of nice to see, and it was good to see it backed up as well, because I think throughout the whole week we saw a good spread of different trainers and jockeys winning. I think there was 17 different trainers trained winners and 21 different jockeys, which was great to see as well. A bit of variety. It wasn't just domination of the biggest yards. And yeah, to see Barry and Michael coming back in, I suppose, to their first big season together, it was brilliant to see.
Yeah, another particular performance from a young jockey as well was the Bumper, a dream to share, John Kiley and John Gleeson. 18-year-old jockey and an 85-year-old trainer. What about that one, Johnny?
Definitely one of my highlights of the week, and I got through to John Kiley after the race, and he hadn't changed, despite the fact that you wake up in the morning as an 85-year-old and just decide I'm going to train my first Cheltenham winner, despite the fact I thought the ground had gone for the horse. He's very flat bred, and I think this man is, I'm sad that I didn't get some documentary team to go down and spend a week in John Kiley's yard while he and Paddy in their 80s rode out thoroughbreds with the view to winning races, because I think it's the greatest example of national hunt racing you get. Genius of a man, and couldn't be more thrilled for him.
Yeah, and he's such a down-to-earth man as well in every way, and a quiet, unassuming guy. I know he was saying that John Gleeson is very similar to him, he says, in the sense that he's also very hard-working, quiet young guy, and he hopes he'll keep his feet on the ground after this. Hard to keep your feet on the ground after riding the Cheltenham Festival, bumper winner at the age of 18. But
he could
no
be a
doubt
very
he's
good
from a
horse
good family
as well. You know, the sense
I
that
think that.
this is effectively a flatbred horse by a stallion by Oasis Dream out of a Galileo mare, I think. And if he's able to win a bumper on that ground, considering the turn of foot he showed at Leopardstown, he got one squeeze coming around the bend. Like, this is a really, really good horse.
I agree. I also thought it was a really, really good ride as well. Tracked Patrick Mullins all the way around, and then for an 18-year-old riding in his first Cheltenham Festival to be able to punch the air going by the line is pretty astonishing too. I'd be hanging on for dear life hoping I'd won. But there you go. It shows different people, different class. Just any other ones out of the week, there was lots of other great performances. I thought the Real Whacker was a great one too, beating Jerry Kalam. I thought that was a very good race. Impere Pass, Lossy Mouth. There's just so many, isn't there? Emma, any other highlights for you?
Yeah, Jerry Clome getting beat was probably a low light, but in fairness, Sam Twiston Davis, that was another ride of the week. Brilliant to see Paddy Neville as well getting the success over in England. Going great since he moved over there, and to get a Cheltenham Festival winner. He was a small trainer in Ireland, but he's going very well in England. And Jerry Clome was a big loser for me, but it's hard to begrudge when you see kind of a good story like that winning as well. So that was a nice winner. Yeah, there was so many, I suppose. Just thinking back now, Imperi Pass, kind of a talking horse, the Willies, he was very, very impressive. Another one who's going to be thrown into the mix with where do they go next year? It'll be a waiting for Constitution Hill kind of one. But we've seen horses go back from the Ballymore to the champion hurdle. So maybe if Constitution did go champion chasing, he could be a champion hurdle horse next year. It's hard to know. But yeah, there was just so many to look back on. But yeah, it was like a brilliant festival. It's kind of hard to pinpoint any moments in particular. There was kind of so many to think of now.
Yeah. What about you, Johnny? Anything in particular that jumps out at you?
I thought that as I said earlier, I thought the first day was pretty much as good as it gets, and like I still think that I still kind of have some misgivings about the 4-day festival, in that I think it does stretch it out, but there really wasn't one race where you thought like this is superfluous. I mean, you think even Keith Donoghue winning, I thought was a grave renewal of the cross country race. Two horses dominating from the same yard, but Davy Russell riding and tracking Keith Donoghue, and I suppose that one of my one of the things from the week you take is that, you know, it was a frustrating one for Davy Russell. I thought his comments about Michael O'Leary were a measure of the man. I thought it was a staggering thing to say, and it just goes to show what Davy must have been bottling up for the last 20 years if he finally says that now, because he just doesn't care anymore. And it just goes to show that he was quite clever in his interviews and the way he dealt with the press in his time as a jockey, because remember, he was ditched by Michael O'Leary and came back and wrote good winners for him. And he was obviously keeping a lid in his feelings. I thought that was an amazing interview, and it was disappointing that he had so many placed runners and didn't have a winner. But the race, the week itself, I thought was phenomenal. The crowds were slightly down. That would be a concern, and it was very expensive for a lot of people. But I just thought it was Cheltenham at its absolute best, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. See the
I
crowds
just
are
must
down.
mention Envoy Allen. Sorry, he was a big highlight for me. I was just caught in the spot there a minute ago, but I just came into my head there now. Him winning the Ryanair, it was brilliant. I think kind of fulfilling his potential that he always had, I suppose, is the way to put it. But yeah, he was. I think everyone was happy to see that. Like, more winners for Henry and Rachel, which was great. But yeah, him coming back to kind of near enough to his best. I know people might have been disappointed with Shishkin and this and that, but yeah, to see Envoy Allen back in the Cheltenham winners enclosure was, I think everyone kind of enjoyed that one as well.
Yeah, another one for me was Sire de Burley. Where did that come out of? I have no idea how that horse won. I know it's his third festival win. He'd won the Pertemps twice before and everything. He's got some great form down the years, but I couldn't see that. Really couldn't. The other thing to note there is he's the only horse during the week that won wearing blinkers. No other horse wearing blinkers won, which is unusual. I'd say if you went back through all the previous festivals, there were loads of them that used to wear them. Another thing is Willie Mullins. 6 winners were all in grade ones, which was very good. Obviously, he won 2 of the big 4 races as well in the Champion Chase and the Gold Cup. What do you make of that as a return for Willie Mullins in the powerful yard, Johnny? Is that enough for him? 6 winners?
Yeah, it's good. I suppose it's a good question. I mean, he had some misses as well throughout the week. But when you think of the races that he won, I mean, Willie didn't win Gold Cups or Champion Chases at all until recently, and he won both of them this year. He obviously didn't beat Constitution Hill. He didn't win the Stairs Hurdle. But you know, his team of novices. You look at the Triumph. He had like the second favourite, won a shocker, and still had the first 4. I'd be fairly happy if I were Willie Mullins going forward.
Yeah. What do you think, Emma? Was just we had a good spread, as you said. There were lots of different trainers in Ireland alone. Last year there were 6 Irish trainers who had winners at Cheltenham last year when we had 18 winners. This year it was 9 different trainers. So we'd a few more smaller ones got in there, including the likes of Tony Martin, who's been a perennial Cheltenham Festival winner down the years. Is that good enough for Irish racing? 9 different trainers have winners. It sounds like it's pretty positive.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a pretty good spread, to be fair. Like, you take the Thursday in particular, I think it was 7 different jockeys and 7 different trainers had winners in the day. So, I mean, look, Willie Mullins, I suppose purely on numbers, it's not a great return, 6 winners out of maybe 70 something runners. But, I think it's kind of hard to look back on too many of them and say they were overly disappointing. I think it was interesting, actually, he said that Facile Vega was a disappointment for them. And I saw him interviewed afterwards. And I think he said he still had the fastest horse in the race, which was a funny one. So maybe he thinks he can turn that form around. I'm not sure. But yeah, look, I think he'll be happy with his week. I don't think you can go into Cheltenham expecting, 10, 12 winners. So I think 6 winners, but they were high quality winners. And I can't think of too many disappointments for him. So yeah, but like, I think for racing as a whole, not even just on the Irish side, to have, Paul Nichols and a few other English trainers getting involved with good winners, kind of winning big races, not just handicaps. Paul Nichols having the RSA winner is it's probably been a while since he has had that kind of a profile winner at a festival, I suppose. So yeah, it's just good for racing as a whole. And I think, like, the whole kind of approach to Cheltenham, people can be very negative about things, Willie Mullins dominating the whip and this and that. But I think, like, the week at Cheltenham, I think the good stories kind of overshadowed everything. There was no trouble with the whip. I think you have to give the jockeys an awful lot of credit for that. And there was no big domination with any trainers or jockeys or dominating all the big races. And interesting, I think there was 27 different sires as well, sired winners, which for the sales ring is a good thing as well. It kind of takes away the illusion of the fashionable sires, the only ones who can get you big winners. So I think for racing as a whole, it was a great week, and it's kind of hard to take too many negatives from anything that happened during the festival for me, anyway.
On sires as well, Emma, I thought it was interesting festival for Walk in the Park. Walk in the Park must be the most expensive national sire of all time, and I thought he did a disappointing festival, really. Facile Vega, I do wonder, do some of these horses have holes in them as well? Facile Vega, for me, found very little under pressure. John Bond, kind of the bubble has burst a bit with him. He was well beaten as well. These exceptionally expensive Walk in the Park horses, don't think he'd a winner in the entire festival. JP McManus has sent Walk in the Park to basically all the best mares that he owns in training, has had very, very limited results. And for me, it was just interesting to see, like, the Walk in the Park. He had obviously 2 of the really good horses in Duvan and Min, but for me now, I think we do need to look at Walk in the Park as he's been a little bit overhyped.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question.
Sires.
I mean, I think Willie has said that they are very fizzy horses, and maybe it is a bit too much hype around them. Like, you could see, like, some of the sires you go through who had Cheltenham winners, you wouldn't even have heard of them. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll wrap it up. Have you got a horse out of the week that you think will win again, either at Punchestown or Aintree, Fairy House, wherever, for the rest of the season? Anything that caught your eye that wasn't necessarily that obvious, Emma?
Constitution Hill. I think Princess Zoe, like, maybe one that didn't win. Princess Zoe, I thought she was running a stormer in the Mayor's Novice. I think if she steps up to maybe 2.5 or 3 miles, she could be very hard to beat. I thought she ran a great race.
Yeah. What about you, Johnny? Did you see anything?
Yeah, I thought she ran very well. My girlfriend's called Zoe, and she backed Good Time Johnny. Who I didn't, and I told her to back Princess Zoe, and I was afraid Magical Zoe was going to win the race, and she ran an unbelievable race for Henry de Bromhead. He wasn't far off winning the race named after Jack, but in hindsight, they probably got the trip wrong with her in that, like, she just did look like she just wanted a bit further, maybe at this stage for life. But I'm actually going to give Pied Piper, Vinny. I thought he ran an absolute blinder, Vinny, and I don't know what happened to David Russell on the day. He was very unbalanced after the last, and I thought the horse probably should have won. But if they go back on the flat with him, the way he travelled in the race, and considering he's had 3 runs this year, he's kind of his first 2 runs he was well behind Safe Man. But I thought the way he travelled, it was a really good performance. There's a big pot to be won with him.
Yeah, good stuff. He's been mixing it, hasn't he? Hurdles and chases. The other one for me was Goodland. The other one of Barry Connell's. I thought that horse was all over a winner with 2 to jump it, cruising, and then didn't get home. I think the trip maybe proved wrong afterwards, but I just think the 2 mile 5 didn't quite see it out. I think if that horse drops back in trip at some point, or maybe goes to an easier 2.5 miles somewhere like Aintree, I think we'll see that horse win. Obviously a very good horse. Barry Connell thought there wasn't a whole lot between the two of them, and he said if Marine Nationale hadn't gone the Supreme, he would have gone there with Goodland and expected to win it. So I'd like to see that horse run over a slightly shorter trip on an easier track. I think it'll win next time. Anyway, guys, look, thanks for all your input into this, and thanks for everyone for watching, and make sure to subscribe to our channel, watch more videos from irishracing.com. Thanks again. See you all soon. Bye for now.